What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. You know what that means. When I got the smoking jacket on, it means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. Are you ready to break down this UFC Vegas 58 card from nose to toes, from east to west? You ready to go through all the numbers, all the tape study notes, all the lines, try to find some spots that stick out? Because I am. This is what we do every week on this show. We try to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. And in order to do that week after week after week, we need to put in the work. So I'm here to put in that work with all you guys that are hanging out here. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. We got my guy Jorge Montero first in the room saying Burgos is the favorite against Jordan. Yes, he is. Almost a minus 200 favorite coming up at the next event, which is going to be really good too. That's going to be that's going to be, I mean, there's no such thing as a boring Shane Burgos fight, but you add Anthony or you add Jourdain into the mix there, and it's going to be a banger. And then JSJ23, what's up, dude? Saying banger main event, Onama back on the card, and Chase Sherman makes the walk again. What's not to love about Saturday? I didn't even hear that Onama was back on the card. I've been preparing for the show, and evidently they've added another fight. Well, I don't have it on here. Maybe I can even put together a spreadsheet if it's somebody that's actually, let me refresh. And David Onama against Garrett Armfield. Who? I've seen this guy. I've seen that dude before. Where did he? Missouri State product. Armfield beat Graham in FAC. So he must be a, Theo Vogel, Kenny Richmond, Chris Johnson, Ronnie Lawrence. That's the fight that I saw. He's lost to Ronnie Lawrence, and he's got a bunch of other wins except for against Matteo Vogel, who beat him in round 2. CFFC, Shamrock FC, and then most recently in FAC with James Krause, maybe? It says Kill Cliff FC. Okay, well, this is Garrett Armfield. I have no idea, and I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, but we will not be breaking down that fight today. David Milks in the room saying, oi, oi, what's up, David? Good to see you in here. Mark Schillingberg saying, Weezy, thank you for showing up every week and putting in work. I appreciate you, my guy. Let's get into this card. Oi, what's up, Mark? It is good to see you here. We got Victor De Jesus saying, oi, yes, what's up? Weezy and chat, that O'Malley Munoz fight fucked up all my parlays. I would have ended up plus 15 units or so if that fight would have played out as it was supposed to. Oh, man, 15 units is a huge day. Yeah, I had O'Malley by decision, and, that got voided, obviously, and I had the fight goes to decision. That got voided. And I also had in a 3-leg parlay, fight starts round 3 there, which that fight kind of screwed me too, man. But that is brutal to lose that much. Oh, God, man, that's brutal, Victor. Well, let's get it back this week, man. Daz Files saying, oi, let's go. Smash some bookies. Let's do it. We got Papa Chuck in the room saying major condolences for anyone in the Highland Park area. Hope you, Unc, your family, all your friends are safe. I grew up in Park Ridge. Had some friends that grew up in Highland Park, man. That was just a terrible tragedy. Prayers go out to everybody that was affected by that. That is just something awful. And for it to happen on July the 4th makes it that much worse. Prayers go out to all who lost somebody there, everybody who was injured. It's just a terrible thing all around. But I'm happy to say that nobody that I know was involved there. But my God, just an awful situation. But we're about positivity on this show for Just a Tip. So let's talk about this UFC Vegas 58 card coming up here. Prince of Mischief saying, oi, Uncle Weezy, thank you for everything that you do. I can't believe Strickland dropped the ball. I thought he'd be smarter than to stand with Alex. Yeah, and so did I, obviously, but doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. He was having success walking forward, but the second he stopped walking forward and stood in front of that dude, he got caught. And, that guy Pereira, he's the dictionary definition in the UFC of somebody with a puncher's chance. And he's got that puncher's chance as a 10 out of 10. All it takes is one of those left hooks. And he caught Mihalidis with that beautiful jump knee. He's huge for the division. ton of power. So Pereira against Izzy is going to be very, very interesting because Izzy's kind of cleaned out the division. And I think he would have absolutely styled on Strickland too. So in this case, I think Pereira is probably the best matchup right now for Izzy. And then I'm going to be looking forward to Jamal Hill fighting him eventually. But I appreciate you, Prince. Thanks for checking in. And then we got my guy Mushroom in the room saying, "Oi, yes, statistical genius, check. Robe, check. Paloma, check. Smooth Jimmy, check. Orange bags, check. Flapjacks, check. Greasy four-legger, check. Ass shaving, check. Must be just a tip with Uncle Weezy. Let's fucking go. Mushroom, absolutely killing it. My brother, it is good to have you up in here. We got Cole Stein saying, "Oi, Weezy, best Tuesday night show by a mile." I appreciate you, man. You know, when I started this show and doing it on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock Central Time because of the Contender Series was actually going on while I did my first Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. So I've kept it at Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Central Time so that whether the Contender Series is going on or not, you can watch the Contender Series, and then after that's over, flip on over to YouTube and join your Uncle Weezy for Just the Tip for the next fights to bet on. So that's why I scheduled this show for Tuesday nights, the Contender Series making its triumphant return. I don't know if it's next week or the week after, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. Great to have you in here, Cole Stein. Appreciate you. Papa Chuck saying, "What's up, Pop?" to Mushroom saying, "What's up, Pop?" to Papa Chuck. Headley One saying, "I saw this advice on another channel and thought it was great. Look at the fight card without the odds and then make your own odds. Then look at the odds." It's a great way to do things, obviously. Absolutely. Mushroom saying, "What's up, Daz?" Eric Betts fights in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Eric? Good to see you in here." We got Daz Files saying that. Mushroom. Jorge saying that. Headley One. I did that once on Cash Big Time on Gamrot versus Sarukian. Roy, yeah, that's right. Eric Betts fights in the room. Travis M saying, "Oi, where's my uncle?" Right in here, my man. Headley One saying it's a good exercise to get better at handicapping, if nothing else. Yeah, man. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Addicted to Combat in the room saying, "Got my Tuesday night glass of bourbon for just the tip." Oi, what's up, Addicted to Combat? Good to see you in here, dude. Let's see here. Yeah, everybody's talking to each other in here. I appreciate you guys. Let me see here. Just going stick with violence for RDA fight under 4.5. I'll be on that or the fight doesn't go with you, man. Andy G saying, "Oi, let's treat these bookies like Pereira treated Strickland." That's not very nice, but yes, that is exactly what we are trying to do here, my man, for sure. Because that was really bad. Let's see. Headley One saying, "I think the Fisiev line is juiced too much. Burgos is minus 200 against Jordan, and that seems like much better value than Fisiev at minus 200. Yeah, I don't know if I'd pay minus 200 for Burgos against Jordan. Jordan's a very good striker, and Burgos has had, God, he takes so much damage, dude. I just don't know how much longer Shane's going to be able to take damage like that and continue to be a top-level fighter, but that is going to be one hell of a fight, man. Burgos against Jordan, Jesus, that's good. Take No Prisoner saying, "I don't think Fisiev will be able to knock out RDA. RDA's only been knocked down once in the UFC. That's unbelievable." Prince of Mischief, by the way, for anyone picking Caio on DraftKings, if you do a single game parlay, Caio plus 0.5 rounds, it's minus 145 rather than the minus 225 money line. Wow. I like that. That's damn, dude. Minus 145. I'm like, fucking damn. I hate to have to delay the show, but if that is something that's available, I'm betting that right now, Prince of Mischief. Let me just see here if that's really out there here for me on my DraftKings Sportsbook. So let's see. We got UFC. And we got the same fight parlays, winner in group of rounds, win fight in total rounds. Oh, they don't have it anymore. Oh, wait, Caio, Borralho, and over 0.5? Nah, they don't have it anymore. Oh, well. Thanks for dude. That's still a great tip, though. Appreciate that. Daz File saying going to be an amazing fight. Someone better TKO or submit somebody for sure, man. And DJ saying this card gives me PTSD to all the trash fight nights we got at the end of 2021. Guess we got too spoiled lately. It's not that bad, but there are some bummers on this one for sure. Also, where the fuck is Dana Ben? Anyone know? Wasn't he there? 276. I thought I saw him there. Maybe I've just been watching too much tape, and I see him like cage side all the time. What my guy MMA Code saying, "Oi, let's go." Sloppy Second saying next week we'll make up for it, DJ. And my guy Slawomir Wojciechowski saying 4 a.m. UK time. My God, that is some dedication being up at 4 a.m. UK time. My man Slawomir in the house. Brandon 9801 saying, let's go. JSJ saying, smash that like button. Take no prisoners saying, good calls, Weezy. Most of us kicked Bookie's ass last week. Yeah, I was plus money, but I kind of feel like I got really unlucky and could have done so much better. But it was a plus week is a plus week. DJ Ariel said he's on vacation. Okay. And I got no one special in my train this weekend. Yeah, you know what? I'm with you, Justin. And ring a ding ding. The big supporter of the MMA community, the GOAT himself, Mr. Tajik Bey, saying, love the show. My only ask is no Chase Sherman slander. Also, to support your favorite uncle, donate directly through YouTube channel here. Oh, you got it, man. No Chase Sherman slander. It was going to be hard for me because I picked him as my ass shaving of the week against Fat Collier, and Fat Collier drowned him in the very first round. So I don't have great feelings for him right now. And then he had to go on and fight Romanov. My God, what a horrible matchup that was for him. But against Jared Vanderaa, it is a winnable matchup. It's going to be a fairly even fight, sort of, I think. So there will be no Chase Sherman slander because the GOAT says so. Tajik Bey, thank you so much for hanging out and supporting the show as you always do, brother. Good to see you on here, my man. Blessed Martian saying, how did you feel about Jared performance? Jared? Jalen Turner, Jared, maybe you're talking about Jared Vanderaa. You know, I mean, in terms of, or are you talking about something from last week? Hang on, let me just look here. Make sure that you're not talking about a fight. Oh, maybe Jared Cannonier's performance? Dude, I was, my computer was so slow that I was only catching one frame out of 3 for that fight. So I couldn't see what was happening for Jared Cannonier. And in terms of Jared Vanderaa, I think he can win this fight, but I don't love his fight IQ. But, you know, I mean, Israel is just a really difficult matchup for anyone. Justin Villegas saying, I'm going to start calling Duplessis the big bad wolf because he was huffing and puffing and no one fell down. Yeah, man, he was tired, but that was a furiously paced fight. And really, Tavares put him through the hell in the first round. Dan Hamilton saying, I heard Izzy open minus 160 over Pereira. Very interesting. Very interesting. JSJ saying, good point, Tajik. To the donations to Pub Sports go to you and Brady. No, those go to Pub Sports Radio. But Pub Sports Radio does amazing work. So, I mean, when you support their channel, you're supporting another great channel that gives some amazing mixed martial arts content. So, yeah, whether it's Pub Sports Radio, whether it's DFS by the numbers, whether it's Uncle Weezy, whether it's the MMA Engine, when you're supporting those channels, you're supporting some good people doing some good work. So I appreciate you, JSJ. King Bicky saying, Strickland took a fall for the bags. Yeah, I mean, he didn't take a fall. He got knocked the fuck out is what happened. And let's see here. Mushroom, Mushroom saying Papa Chuck not being incognito today. And we got Kenny Williams in the room saying, Uncle Weezy, what up? What's up, Kenny? Good to see you in here, man. And we got Jovac saying Clint said he doesn't get donations made on Pub. That's they go to Pub Sports Radio. And Tiffany Shriver, ring a ding ding. She is saying thank you for the knowledge and entertainment, supporting her favorite uncle. I appreciate you, Tiffany. Thank you so much for the donation. It means so much. Keeping the lights on here in Uncle Weezy's studio. And Tajik Bey saying supporting Uncle Weezy directly is the right way. Let's go, Tiffany. Thank you for donating, Tiffany. Thank you for donating, Tajik Bey. And thank all of you for watching. Hit that big up button on the video if you get a chance for your Uncle Weezy. And yeah, Dana was on vacation. And Prince of Mischief saying, I bet Caio at minus 145. SGP, the second it opened up, I was so surprised it was that low. The over 1.5 is plus 140. And we got Konospal saying Fisiev versus Gamrot. Don't really think anyone in the top 5 will willingly try and strike with Fisiev, and we don't know how good Fisiev's grappling is, like how we've seen with Armen and Gamrot. Yeah, we know that Gamrot's grappling is going to be better, Armen's as well, for sure. But, you know, Fisiev has done a very good job of keeping fights on the feet. And Tajik Bey saying, what's up to Mushroom? David Nettles saying, Uncle Weezy, hope you had a great 4th of July. One question, how much of a fight layoff is enough to start being concerned about the length of it? Also, how soon is too soon after getting KO'd? I guess it depends on the KO. I think it's the ones behind the ear that don't mean as much as the ones that are on the chin. And, you know, especially after a nasty knockout, I've heard people say, you know, you want to be off at least 6 months. And then in terms of layoffs, you know, it really depends, you know, because sometimes you could be 24 and you can come off a 2-year layoff, show back up when you're 26 and be this great fighter, you know. And then sometimes you'll see somebody come off a 2-year layoff and they've been 35. They come back when they're 37. You know, a layoff means more when you're older, I think. And it also has more to do with the injuries that may have caused the layoff, whether it was injuries or inactivity. But there's no one-size-fits-all answer for those questions. But, you know, every situation is a little bit different, and it depends on how much damage is piled up over the career as well. And JSJ saying, asking Weezy for no Sherman slander is like asking the sun not to rise tomorrow. Well, JSJ, my guy Jazz, one of my best supporters on the channel, dude, if the GOAT asks you, you do what the GOAT tells you to do. My guy Sean V in the room saying Weezy 2024. What's up, Sean? And let's see, we got Jorge saying, I believe he's talking about Cannonier. Yes, sir, yes. And Sloppy Second saying, or as Matt Holt would say, Cannonier. Yeah. Zero Miedo saying, do you guys split the MMA engine donos? Yes, we do. We do. They just go to all 4 members of the MMA engine. So it's just the 4 of us, and they get split up equally. Yes. And then Sean V saying, what's up to Mushroom? And let's see. We got Thomas Kane saying, keep losing friends. Enjoy each day, people, please. Yeah, we definitely, we've got to keep enjoying each day and keep our friends close. Sean saying, what's up to Thomas? My guy B saying, oi, happy Canadian Day, 4th. Let's make money. Happy Canadian Day to you, B. Thanks for hanging out here, brother. Appreciate you. Andy G, ring a ding ding with the donation supporting his Uncle Weezy, saying, always appreciate the hard work that you put into the analysis, Uncle Weezy. Now everyone smash that like button. I thank you, Andy, for supporting the show. It means so much, brother. Keeping the lights on in Uncle Weezy's studio. Be saying smash the like. You guys, let's get to work. We're almost 20 minutes deep already, and we have got some work to do today. I am going to share my screen with you. I believe there he is, you guys. How about Smooth Jimmy Apollo, ready to rock all 11 of these fights. Now, there are going to be 12 fights on this card. However, they just added the Onama fight with his new opponent about a half an hour before I went live. So I don't have anything on his opponent Armfield for you guys. So I'm going to skip over that fight. But also, the stats can be downloaded for free in the description of the video, and I will absolutely add a tab for the Onama fight with the stats for Onama, and we don't have any UFC stats for his current opponent because he'll be making his debut, but that will also be in there and in the prop template for probability on Thursday night. And let's see here. We're going to start with the first fight of the night, and it is an absolute banger. I don't know why this is the first fight of the night because this could easily be main card in my opinion, but these are young prospects, so they're probably keeping it on the undercard for that reason. All right, but yeah, Saidyokub Kakhromonov against Ronnie the Heat Lawrence. We got Ronnie Lawrence, the favorite at minus 140. Kakhromonov plus 120, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus money at plus 120. So We see that Saidyokub is younger by 4 years here, but it's Ronnie Lawrence who's 1 inch taller, and Saeed's going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage. Lawrence fights out of both stances. So does Kakhromonov, but Kakhromonov is listed as an orthodox fighter. We got American top team for Ronnie Lawrence and Team Oyama for Saidyokub. Kakhromonov, Uzbekistan, stand up, as that is where Kakhromonov is from. And we got the United States here for Ronnie Lawrence. I know that Saidyokub also trains in California, and I think he's also got family here in the Chicagoland area. Now, Kakhromonov has 2 more fights, 12 more minutes in the cage, but it's Ronnie Lawrence who's been fighting for 1 year and 6 months longer as a professional mixed martial artist. Ronnie Lawrence also has 2 more fights at the UFC level and about 25 more minutes, almost 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. And as far as finishers, it's Kakhromonov who's finished 7 of his 9 wins, while Lawrence has finished 4 of 8. Saeed has been finished in 1 of his 2 losses. It was Pipe Vargas who caught him with a flying knee in the 3rd round. And Ronnie Lawrence 8-1, and he was not finished in his only loss. Both of these guys are putting up really nice numbers. 3.54 significant strikes landed for Lawrence, 1.62 absorbed, 58% striking accuracy. He's got 3 knockdowns in 3 UFC fights, and he's averaging 1.06 knockdowns per 15 minutes is Ronnie Lawrence, and he's showing a 56% striking defense, and he's also been knocked down twice in 3 UFC fights. Kakhromonov, 2.46 landed, less than 1 significant strike absorbed, and he's throwing double the volume of his opponents in the 1 fight that he's had so far. 61% striking defense, 55% striking offense, no knockdowns for or against. Now, Lawrence is a good boxer. He throws a lot of volume when he's standing. He's a very big, tall bantamweight. And he really showed some nice accuracy and some nice hands, in particular in his last fight where he had 3 knockdowns against Mana Martinez in the first 2 rounds. And he mixes in the wrestling about as good as anybody right now in this division. And Saidyokub is a very, very dangerous fighter. He went 3 rounds with Umar Nurmagomedov, and it was a competitive fight. Saeed throws 100% power into every punch. If you go and exchange in the pocket with this guy, you are taking a huge chance because he will try to trust his chin and just land the heavier shots. So Saeed is very dangerous everywhere. He finished Trevin Jones with a beautiful guillotine choke on the fence. Ronnie Lawrence, I think thus far has looked better at the UFC level in his 3 fights. He's 33 takedown attempts in 3 fights, you guys, and he's gotten 26 of them. That's almost a 79% takedown accuracy. He's averaging 9.15 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponent 61% to 5%. So it's like a 13-to-1 ratio of control time for to control time against. And we see that even though Kakhromonov won his first fight, he was taken down once, and he was controlled for 61% of the fight, while only controlling Trevin Jones for 7.62% of the fight, despite the fact that he got 2 takedowns and Trevin Jones only got 1. So very inefficient in terms of losing minutes on the cage and on the ground here in his first performance. And that's a really bad thing to do against Ronnie Lawrence, who's spending about 2/3 of the 42 minutes that he's been in the UFC cage in control time positions for or against. So right now we got a situation here where Lawrence is doing such a good job of winning minutes that I'm almost believing that unless Saidyokub can get himself a submission or land a big shot on the feet, that it's going to be Ronnie Lawrence winning this fight. Now, I think this line is very appropriate right where it's at. I think Ronnie Lawrence should be the favorite, but I think anything further past minus 140 would be disrespectful to Kakhromonov. This kid is very, very good, you guys. He's the more experienced fighter here. He's going to be the more powerful striker, in my opinion, and he does have very nice submissions. Ronnie has never submitted anybody as a pro. while Saeed has 4 submission wins and 3 knockout wins. So, he's dangerous everywhere. Also, Saidyokub, I believe, is a black belt in judo. So he's got good hips, good trips, reaps, throws. He is going to be good on the fence. He's going to be good in the clinch. Judo players are very good there. So this is a very close fight. But I do believe that Ronnie Lawrence is going to be right there and able to win minutes on the feet. But the ability to be able to wrestle here is going to be very good. Now, Kakhromonov is an excellent wrestler, too. When you watch the regional scene footage of Kakhromonov, in particular in the Pipe Vargas fight, he did a really nice job of wrestling there and looked good on the ground against Tyson Lin as well. So I think it's a very close fight. I think I have to pick Ronnie Lawrence here because of the minute-winning potential. But I think the more likely guy to finish is going to be Kakhromonov here. But I'm going to pick Ronnie Lawrence to win this fight by decision. I'm just about as excited for this fight as I am any other fight on this card right now. And that includes the main event and the co-main event. 2 absolutely fantastic prospects. The arrow is pointing straight up. The ceiling is high. And the mixed martial arts game is very well put together. Great conditioning, great power, great wrestling on both sides of this fight. I'm very, very excited for this fight. Let me just look and see here at the prop template, you guys, and see if anything is sticking out for Lawrence Kakhromonov with the current lines. 12 of their 20 combined fights have finished inside the distance. At the UFC level, though, it's 2 of 4. It is plus 115 for the fight not to go to decision. 49% of bantamweight fights finish inside the distance. I'm really not seeing anything here jumping out. Maybe a finish-only prop for Kakhromonov. But, yeah, it's going to be a Ronnie Lawrence by decision is going to be the pick for me. Next fight is another interesting one, a difficult one to handicap, in my opinion. It's going to be Karl Roberson, Baby K, stepping up against Kennedy Nzechukwu, one of the harder fighters to figure out in the UFC here. So we've got, it's going to be Nzechukwu, who is the favorite at minus 128. There's money coming in on him. Baby K, the underdog, at plus 108. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 155 here. So this is definitely an interesting one. So, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this fight, but always the thing that you have to talk about when it comes to Kennedy and Nzechukwu fights is the ridiculous size of this guy. It's unbelievable, everybody. We're talking about 30 years of age, so he's still fairly young in his career and young for this division of 205 pounds. He's only a year younger than Roberson, but look at that. 4 inches taller, and you almost never see a 9-inch reach advantage for a fighter. But Kennedy Nzechukwu has freakishly long range, 83-inch reach. Both of these guys are southpaws, too, which is very interesting because Karl Roberson has fought a ton of southpaws, and I believe Kennedy has as well. So, this southpaw versus southpaw won't be as interesting because both of these guys have experience fighting southpaws. It's Fortis MMA for Kennedy, Killer B Combat Sports for Karl Roberson. So Roberson, while he has 2 more professional fights, it's Kennedy who actually has 20 more minutes in the pro cage. And but Karl Roberson about a year and a half more as a pro, 2 more UFC level fights, but about 12 more minutes in the UFC cage for Kennedy. And look, both of these guys have grown up in the UFC. Both of these guys only had 4 fights outside of the UFC as mixed martial artists before getting the call. So 8 fights at the UFC level out of 12 for Kennedy and 10 out of 14 for Roberson. So the experience is very close here, but a huge size advantage for Kennedy. And then we look at both of these guys are finishing 2/3 of their wins. 6 wins inside the distance for Roberson, 6 wins inside the distance for Nzechukwu. Nzechukwu has been finished in 2 of his 3 losses, and Baby K Roberson has been finished in all 5 of his professional losses. 8 combined losses for these 2 fighters, 7 of them coming inside the distance. Let's just take a real quick look at the prop template, because when we see numbers like that, it gets me excited. 19 of 26 fights finishing inside the distance for these guys combined as pros at 73.1%. And at the UFC level, we're seeing 13 of 18 finishing inside the distance. That's 72.2%. That is way better than the 57% finish rate of the division. That is 6.7% better than the implied probability of the line at 65%. And when you compare that 57% finish rate to the 65% implied probability of the line, we're overpaying by about 8.23%. But at minus 190, I don't necessarily hate that as a parlay piece, especially when you see 7 of 8 losses inside the distance combined for these two guys at the UFC level, and they're both finishing more than half of their wins. So I do like fight not going to decision for this fight. But let's talk about the striking, because Karl Roberson is a former Glory kickboxer. So he's a very well-schooled striker. And he's also done really, really well on the ground getting submissions. He's got more wins by submission than he does by knockout as a pro fighter. So this is very interesting. You know, a guy with the kickboxing background, but who does mix in the grappling really well and is able to get submissions. While Kennedy Nzechukwu has not only never even gotten a takedown at the UFC level, I don't think he's ever even attempted a submission, and he's only attempted 1 takedown in 8 fights. And Roberson has only attempted 7 takedowns in 10 fights. And, you know, with Kennedy having 80% takedown defense, I really don't see this fight going to the ground at all, because Kennedy just flat out doesn't wrestle at all. And Karl Roberson wrestles very infrequently. But if you're going to wrestle somebody, don't wrestle somebody that's got a 9-inch reach advantage over you. Don't wrestle somebody that's got 80% takedown defense and an endless gas tank. You're just going to gas out and wind up losing late, because Kennedy does a great job of stopping takedowns. And he actually survived a couple of really good grapplers for a very long time, almost a full 3 rounds with Paul Craig before he got caught in that triangle. And then almost he had Danilo Marquez on his back for the entire first round, and he survived that and survived getting taken down again in the second round by Marquez, and then wound up knocking him out in the third. So Nzechukwu doesn't look to get fights to the ground. His opponents look to get him to the ground. And Karl Roberson, I think, would rather, just with that kickboxing background, just stand and bang. So I see these guys, I see this fight taking place on the feet, and these guys standing and banging. And because of that, you know, I think Roberson is going to be the better striker, but how does he close a 9-inch reach disadvantage? That's a problem. I don't exactly know how he's going to be able to do this, because Kennedy is just going to try to, and Kennedy uses his length well. He's got good front kicks. His punches come straight down the pipe, but he's kind of inactive at times. So it is a very interesting matchup. Both of these guys land more significant strikes per minute than they absorb. Roberson's been knocked down twice. Kennedy's been knocked down once. And let's see. A lot more volume here for Kennedy, as he's throwing 11.6 and his opponents are throwing 10.1, while Karl Roberson gets out-volumed by his opponents as he throws about 5.5 and his opponents throw 6. And the difference, though, is that Kennedy's fights take place in control time positions about 24% of the time, but for Roberson, it's about 47% of the time. So Roberson hasn't been able to spend as much time striking as I think he would like to. But I think this time he is going to be able to get the chance to strike here. The question is, will he be able to land a big shot, close the distance, get Kennedy backing up? Because it's not exactly easy to do. But if he kind of goes in, balls to the wall, guns blazing, and goes after Kennedy like Da Un-jung did, and just said, you know, oh, if you want to go up and put yourself into that little Frankenstein, arms up and just walk forward, well, that's fine. But, you know, I'm gonna bust your forearms, and then I'm gonna bust your jaw. And that's exactly what Da Un-jung did here. And Roberson's got some nasty elbows. He could absolutely hurt Kennedy like Da Un-jung did. If we look at the strength of schedule for these guys, Kennedy's got the better ratio, but it's Karl who's fighting the much more experienced competition. And the wins are the same thing. The average record of a Roberson win is 3.6 wins, 3 losses. The average record of an Nzechukwu win is 1.2 wins, 0.6 losses. So Roberson's fighting the more experienced competition. Kennedy and Nzechukwu is fighting the better win-loss ratio competition. But it's Karl Roberson who has the better strength of schedule, fighting guys like Vittori, Wellington Turman, Brendan Allen, Khalil Roundtree, Glover Teixeira. While for, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, he lost a split decision to Nikolai Negomarianu. Da Unjung beat Danilo Marquez after losing the first 2 rounds of that fight. Beat Carlos Ulberg after losing the first round of that fight. Darko Stosic punched him in the sack like 14 times, got a couple points taken, and Kennedy won that fight. But very interesting bet for this fight, in my opinion, would be shout out Lou Betya, the Yambag shot in this one. Dude, Kennedy and Nzechukwu has had points taken. Kennedy and Nzechukwu's opponents have had points taken twice. He's 6'5". He's absolutely huge for the division. And it makes for eye pokes, it makes for fence grabs, and it makes for Yambag shots. So I might be betting the point deduction on this fight at 20-1 on DraftKings because Kennedy and Nzechukwu's fights often have point deductions, and sometimes more than one. So that is going to be the way I'm looking at this one. The pick, you guys, boy, I guess I'm going to have to say Roberson. I'm going to have to pick Karl Roberson to win here. I think he's got a little more process to his game. Neither one of these guys is going to grapple. And while Nzechukwu has that length and that size, I think Roberson will have the power and the better game plan, the better schooled striking. But Nzechukwu's conditioning is fantastic. That's something you always also have to worry about. Kennedy and Nzechukwu is always worth around 3 bet, in my opinion, because of that size, because of how unorthodox he is, and because of his conditioning, which is very unusual for this weight class. I always like his chance to be able to get that 3rd round finish. But I'm going to pick Karl Roberson to win this one, and I'll pick him to win by decision. Next fight. Cody Brundage against Tresean Gore. Very, very interesting fight here. Let me get hang on just a second here. Let me get my banner up here. And we've got Cody Brundage is the underdog, plus 109. Tresean Gore coming back at minus 129. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 130. Okay. Now, both of these guys are 28 years old. Both of these guys are 6 feet, and it's going to be Tresean Gore who switches stances and has a 3-inch reach advantage. So I like the tail of the tape for Tresean here. Cody has got 5 more professional fights, twice as much time in the pro cage, and it's Tresean Gore, though, whose career has been 1 year longer. Trey has been very, very inactive. Only 4 professional fights in a 4-year and 3-month career, but that doesn't count the 2 fights in the Ultimate Fighter house. So he's been a little bit more active lately, but he couldn't even make it. He got hurt prior to the Ultimate Fighter finale, so we kind of had to wait to get the proper finale, which was Brian Battle against Tresean Gore. And instead we got, I think, Urbina against Battle, if I'm not mistaken. But so Cody, I like the experience here. He's been much busier. Almost 3 fights a year for Cody Brundage, while it's 1 fight a year for Tresean Gore. So he's more experienced, and he's been the much busier fighter, and he's got 2 more fights at the UFC level and a couple more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to finishing, Trey has finished 2 of his 3 wins, and Cody has finished 6 of his 7 wins. Both of these guys have as many submissions as they do knockouts, and Cody has been finished once in 2 professional losses. Tresean Gore has never been finished. Now, when it comes to the striking, you've got to give Gore the advantage in the striking. Gore throws heavy leg kicks, big punches, and he's very defensively sound because he's either offense or defense. Tresean Gore does not counterpunch. It's very, very strange to watch. Watch this guy's fights. He's either first or he's shelling up. So it's a very strange style, and you can see what I'm talking about right here. 6.33 significant strikes attempted per minute, 12.87 are thrown his way by his opponents. So he's, for every one significant strike attempt that Tresean Gore throws, his opponent's throwing 2. And you could see it in the battle fight. Even though Gore was marching down Battle, the reason Battle was able to throw about 3 strikes for every one that Tresean threw was because every time Brian threw, nothing came back his way. So either Trey was first or he wasn't throwing. Cody is good on the feet, but we're seeing the same thing here where he's getting outlanded here by about a quarter significant strike per minute. His opponents are throwing about 1.3 more significant strike attempts per minute than Cody is, but Cody's accurate just like Tresean is, and a little bit more defensively responsible. As Trey got hit with a lot of stuff coming his way from Brian Battle in that fight, as Brian throws a ton of volume, and we see it right here, 12.87 to 6.33. So even though Trey hits harder, even though Trey shells up good when strikes are coming his way, and even though Trey walks forward, I think that if Cody does a couple of different things here, he's going to be good on the feet. One, if he's first. If he's first, Trey's not going to throw back at him. Second, if he walks forward, that's also going to crowd the kicker, and that's going to make it much more difficult for Tresean to get his offense off. And 3, because Tresean always is defensive when his opponent is throwing, if Cody can throw combinations to the head, 1, 2, 3, and then off that third strike, shoot in on a double leg, he'll be able to get underneath the elbows of Tresean Gore and maybe get his hands locked behind him, and then he might be able to get Trey down. Now, Trey has excellent takedown defense, and he's a unit. He's a really strong dude. So not going to be easy to take this guy down. But if I'm right about what I'm seeing with Tresean Gore never throwing counter punches, Cody's got to weigh in. He's not only got to weigh in to win some minutes on the feet here by throwing more volume, but he's also got to weigh in to use his striking, to set up his grappling, to get this fight to the ground, because once he does get the fight to the ground, Cody's fast down there. When you watch that William Knight fight, he lost that fight, but as soon as he got William Knight to the ground, the speed with which he took his back and got his hooks in was very impressive. So I think Cody's going to be live to win minutes on the ground here. I think he's going to be live to mix in the wrestling and potentially get the fight to the ground and win some minutes down there. But on the feet, I favor Tresean. I would like to see him let his hands go a little bit more, and I'd like to see him counter punch. It's just something I haven't seen at all from him yet. And I think in order to be successful, he can't be willing to be defensive while his opponents are being offensive, because his opponents will pick up on that and they will outvolume him, walk him down, crowd him, and it'll make it really hard for Trey to get off his offense. In terms of the wrestling here, we see Cody's fights, 22% control time for, 53% control time against. So Cody, very, very comfortable in the grappling exchanges. He's getting out controlled there, but one of those fights was against Nick Maximov, who's a very, very high-level wrestler. Tresean, more of a pure striker, although he is well-rounded. So definitely I favor Tresean on the feet, but I see some holes there, and I definitely favor Cody Brundage on the ground. Newberry College, Division II wrestler, really good pedigree, and then, uses that base to set up everything else that he does in the mixed martial arts game that he has here. And if we look at the strength of schedule numbers for these two gentlemen, Cody Brundage with a 1.33 ratio. The only guy that Tresean Gore has fought is Brian Battle, who's 1-0. So we've just got a situation here where I'm giving Gore the striking advantage. I'm giving Brundage the grappling advantage. The experience is very close. Tail of the tape goes to Gore, and I like the equal opportunity finishing of Cody Brundage here. This is a very, very difficult fight to call here. but I am leaning the plus money side on Brundage at plus 109, and I think he can hang on the feet with Tresean here. I'm looking for Tresean to take that next step, to start putting everything together here, because there are certainly there's a lot to like about this dude. He's incredibly strong. He's incredibly powerful. He's got the right frame for this division. He's humble. And he's got very good takedown defense. And when you're as good of a striker as Tresean is, and you can keep the fight at striking range, it is a great quality to have. I don't see Cody throwing the kind of volume that Brian Battle was able to throw, and I don't see him being able to move as well as Brian Battle did. But I do see him being able to land big shots and potentially mix in the wrestling here. So I'm going to pick Cody Brundage to win this one by decision, but I think it's going to be very close. And if I'm on that Brundage side, I would just wait, because I think more money is going to come in on Tresean Gore. What he does, it kind of pops. It jumps off the screen. So I wouldn't be surprised if more money came in on Gore from here. But yeah, that's what we got for that fight there. The next fight is going to be, let me see here. We've got Antonina Shevchenko against Courtney Casey here. And Shevchenko is a minus 175 favorite. Courtney Casey plus 150. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to plus 155. So a good plus money number there. Both of these ladies on the wrong side of 35 here. Courtney 35, Antonina 37. Antonina an inch taller. She's a southpaw to Courtney's orthodox. MMA lab for Courtney. It's Tiger Muay Thai for Antonina Shevchenko. Courtney Casey with the experience advantage here with 6 more professional fights, about 80 more minutes in the pro cage. But Antonina Shevchenko has a 20-year-long career. Evidently, her first MMA fight came at the age of 17. Excuse me. At the UFC level, it's Courtney Casey with 6 more fights and about 90 more minutes in the cage at the UFC level. It's Shevchenko with a 44% finish rate, Courtney Casey with a 70% finish rate. Antonina has finished 3 of her 4 UFC wins, and Courtney's finished 3 of her 6 UFC wins. Courtney's been finished in 1 of 8 losses, though, at the UFC level, and Antonina has been finished in 2 of 4 losses. So both of these ladies finished at a decent rate. And the striking, it's got to be Antonina Shevchenko. That's her base. It's a Muay Thai base. She's good there. Courtney Casey's also got good striking. Former college soccer player. She's got vicious low leg kicks, vicious calf kicks, and she's good there. Courtney's big hole is the takedown defense. She's never been able to stop takedowns, and when you do take her down, because she loves arm bars from guards so much, she's willing to stay on her back and play for those arm bars, and she can lose a ton of minutes on her back getting taken down and getting held there. But she is dangerous from there because she does get some arm bar wins. Now, Courtney throws a lot more volume than her opponents, 2.4 more significant strike attempts per minute, almost a half significant strike landed more per minute than her opponents. And, Antonina's landing almost 1 more significant strike attempt or 1 more significant strike per minute than her opponents do. And she throws about 0.6 more significant strike attempts, 57% striking accuracy, 51% striking defense. So, nothing spectacular here. Neither one of these ladies has ever scored a knockdown. 1 knockdown against for Courtney Casey. Antonina's never been knocked down. Now, where Antonina and Courtney Casey lose a ton of minutes is on the ground here. 32% control time against for Casey, 35% control time against, almost 36 for Shevchenko. And look at that, 53% takedown defense for Shevchenko, but not to be outdone with terrible takedown defense is always Courtney Casey, sitting there at the bottom of the barrel like fine wine. She's in the cellar. 38.3% takedown defense. Yikes. She's been taken down 29 times in 14 fights. So neither one of these ladies wins a lot of minutes on the feet, as Courtney's only gotten 3 takedowns in 14 fights and accumulated just under 6% control time for. Antonina Shevchenko actually does have 23% control time for and she's gotten 3 of her 6 takedowns. So she has mixed it in to win minutes before. But it's a big red flag because I think a lot of this control time was in the fight against Andrea Lee, where she was basically in a triangle for 4.5 minutes. But I think they counted that 4.5 minutes of control time for Shevchenko, and then she wound up getting submitted with like 30 seconds left in the round. So, or maybe even less than that. But either way, neither one of these ladies is particularly good at winning grappling positions. But Shevchenko should be the better striker here. In terms of strength of schedule, Shevchenko a better ratio, Courtney Casey fighting the more experienced competition. And when it comes to the wins, look at, they're lousy for both. 0.73 ratio for Shevchenko, 0.63 for Casey. They're both beating ladies at the UFC level with losing records in the UFC. And then they both lose to good fighters with at least 500 records and 9 total fights. So if we look at the strength of schedule down here, Calvillo, Borralho, Roberson, Aldrich, and Jojua for Courtney Casey. And I mean, dude, she should have lost that fight to Jojua. If Jojua had any brains at all, she would have been wrestling there. I mean, that was one of the worst fucking game plans I've ever seen. Liana Jojua against Courtney Casey. Just absolutely terrible. My guy Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting must have been absolutely despondent that night to see his favorite fighter perform with such little fight IQ. But Courtney can absolutely lose minutes just about everywhere. I think Antonina's good enough to win the minutes in the striking in this fight. Good enough to feel that she wins this fight by decision here. I don't think she's finishing Courtney Casey. Courtney Casey's only been finished once. So I think Antonina Shevchenko by decision will be my pick for this fight. Will I be betting it? Will I be laying juice on women's MMA? No, can't do it, you guys. It's a bad long-term plan, and it's bad for your Uncle Weezy's sanity, which, as you know, is just dangling by a very thin thread here. So, yeah, it's going to be Antonina Shevchenko by decision for that fight. Let's move on to the next one. Aiemann Zahabi against Ricky Turcios. Ricky Turcios, the last season of the Ultimate Fighter winner. And Aiemann Zahabi, the little brother of Firas Zahabi. Firas Zahabi, best known for training George St. Pierre. So this is a very interesting fight. Really enjoyed taping this fight. These guys are good. Turcios, 5 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and 3 inches of reach here. And both of these guys are orthodox fighters. It's Team Alpha Male for Turcios and TriStar for Zahabi. We got 3 more professional fights for Ricky Turcios. Almost 80 more minutes in the pro cage and about 2.5 more years as a pro. So Turcios is younger, taller, longer, and more experienced as a pro. But it's actually Zahabi who has 2 more UFC level fights and 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. It is Aiemann Zahabi who's the much better finisher here at 88%. So he's finished 7 of his 8 wins inside the distance. All 7 of those finishes came in the very first round for Aiemann Zahabi. And he has been finished once by knockout. I believe it was a spinning back fist by, or maybe a spinning back kick by Ricardo Ramos that did that to him. Turcios, a 36% finish rate in 11 wins, and he has been knocked out once in 2 pro losses. That knockout loss came to Leomana Martinez. In the striking, it is going to be Ricky Turcios, who's the minute winner, and Aiemann Zahabi, who is the moment winner. Turcios just throws a ton of volume. He throws switch kicks, and he's working off that front leg and front arm quite a bit. So he is an orthodox fighter. So what he's doing is he's throwing that left switch kick and then following it up with 2 jabs right behind it. He's all over the place. He throws a lot more volume than his opponent's 15.4 thrown. His opponents throw 10.27, and he's landing 7 while his opponents only land 4.23. He does have a knockdown, and he's never been knocked down. Showing good striking defense at almost 59%. Zahabi lands less than he absorbs. So his opponents are landing more than one more significant strike per minute than Aiemann lands. And they're throwing about 4.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than he is. So he's getting out volumed and he's getting outlanded on the feet. But we do see that he's got 2 knockdowns here in only 4 UFC fights. So he's definitely changed the trajectory of a fight by landing a big shot. And Aiemann is very explosive. Like I said, 7 wins inside the distance, and they're all in the first round. And he gets them by submission, and he gets them by knockout as well. We see 2 wins by submission and 5 by knockout. So he's very dangerous with his hands, and we saw it most recently in the Draco Rodriguez fight. I mean, he was getting hit, but when that one big shot landed, he absolutely blasted him and finished him. So Zahabi's very dangerous on the feet, but Turcios is going to be the minute winner. Now, the problem with Turcios is that he folds like a lawn chair. He's been taken down 6 times on 11 attempts, and he's been controlled over 25% of his UFC cage time, and he's only got 8% control time for. So while Turcios can get some takedowns, he can win some minutes on the ground. In particular, the Daniel Argueta fight in the UFC house is tied going into the 3rd round, and Turcios gets on top about 30 seconds in and rides out the rest of the round on top. So Turcios is smart, man. He puts it all together. He will wrestle. He will get back up when you take him down. He will go for submissions. He will go for guillotines. He is always looking to finish the fight. He's always looking to throw volume, to counter. He is always there. He's always present. Zahabi is the brother of a coach, and he thinks in there. He's a thinking man's fighter. He is extremely well-rounded. Extremely well-rounded. He can wrestle. He can get submissions. He's got a ton of power. He switches stances constantly. He does it all. And, he's a very well-schooled fighter. But what Zahabi is not is active. Active as a professional fighter. Only 10 pro fights in like 7 years. And then in addition to that, he's just not active on the feet. So, I think if you're picking Turcios, you're picking him to win by decision here. Most likely, it's going to be a decision if he wins. But Zahabi can win by decision, or he can win inside the distance because he has that kind of power. And, we saw Leomana Martinez shut out Turcios' lights. So Zahabi absolutely has the ability to do that too. So I'm going to pick. I think, look, Zahabi for a finish-only prop, I think, is a really good line because he's the underdog here. Let's see what scorecards no action is for Aiemann Zahabi. Zahabi scorecards no action plus 135. It was plus 140. So, that money has come in a little bit on that. But since Turcios isn't much of a finisher, I do like plus 135 for Zahabi scorecards no action. I think he's far more likely to finish. And when you watch his career, he is a very explosive finisher. So I'm going to go with Zahabi finish only prop is a good bet. And it's a coin flip for me in terms of the fight. But I guess I'm going to lean Aiemann Zahabi because he's a little more well-rounded and because he's a little more explosive. And I think that if he wants to mix in the wrestling, which we haven't seen him do much yet at this level, that could be a surefire way for him to win minutes on the ground. So I'll lean Zahabi here, and I will be looking to make Zahabi finish only as a track bet this week. Next fight, okay, Cynthia Calvillo against Nina Nunes. All right, so there's not much I can do here, you guys. We don't know what's going on. Oh, dude, I see some friends in here. DFS by the numbers in the room saying that was the worst game plan you've ever seen. Now, I don't know what he's talking about there. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure what game plan he was talking about because I'm always talking about game plans. But I've seen some bad ones, and Corey McKenna's is the worst. But I've seen some bad ones. But good to see my guy Brady in the room, and we got also I saw Yes, there he is. My guy Clint saying, how's it going, Weezy? What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Always good to see the diehard MMA podcast, man, in here watching Just the Tip with his Uncle Weezy, as I was on his show a couple weeks ago, and he had the Pub Sports crew on this week. Always good to see him in here, my man. And all right, so let's see. The next one is this Calvillo against Nunes fight. Now, I'm going to, because I'm a professional, okay, I'm going to take you through all the stats of this fight. And I know that some of you are going to be gambling on this fight. I will not be gambling on this fight. This is a 1-800-GAMBLER fight for me. Cynthia Calvillo, 34, Nina Nunes, 36. You got Nina Nunes, who is now married to Amanda Nunes. They recently had a baby. That baby is probably like less than 2 years old right now. So is Nina more of a mom or more of a fighter these days? Hard to know. And Cynthia Calvillo quit on the stool in her last fight. She's put together several straight bad game plans and bad fights. And I don't know what to think here. So they're, Calvillo 2 years younger. Nina Nunes has 1 inch of height, same reach, both orthodox stances. They're both coming out of great camps. It's Nina who has 3 more fights, but only 7 more minutes of cage time, a couple more years as a pro. But Cynthia actually has 3 more UFC level fights and almost 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. So tail of the tape, almost the same. Pro experience, almost the same. UFC experience, almost the same. Finish stats. 60% for Nunes overall, 55% for Calvillo. Nunes has been subbed in 2 of 7 losses. Calvillo's been knocked out in 2 of 4 losses. To break this fight down as simply as possible, Nina Nunes is the kickboxer and Cynthia Calvillo is the grappler. But I think that Cynthia's fallen in love with her hands a little bit lately, which seems to be a bit of a trend amongst the grapplers over at Team Alpha Male. A lot of these guys, hey, Josh Emmett's a great example. Somebody who just falls in love with his hands. He used to be a wrestler, but he doesn't wrestle at all anymore. Corey McKenna, is a grappler who decided she was a boxer against Elise Reed. And Calvillo is going out there trying to box. She's not going out there selling out for the grappling like she did when she first came into the UFC when she was successful. So, we see Nunes with the better numbers on the feet here. She throws more volume. She lands more than 1.1 significant strikes per minute than her opponents do. Calvillo gets out-volumed, but actually outlands her opponents by 0.17 significant strikes per minute. Neither of these ladies has ever been knocked down. Neither of these ladies has ever recorded a knockdown. Now, Calvillo, 37 takedown attempts in 11 fights. She's gotten 16 of them, 21% control time for, 1.45% control time against. So she's done a very good job of not losing minutes on the ground. Can't say the same for Nunes. Now, Nunes has fought some really good wrestlers and grapplers here. So, yeah, she's going to get taken down sometimes, but still, 76.5% takedown defense, 28% control time for, but 13.37% control time that she's gotten. So you look at that and you say, oh, wow, Nina Nunes is being out-controlled 2-to-1 at a 2-to-1 ratio in control time positions. But it's really not that bad because, look, Nunes has only attempted 5 takedowns, but her opponents have attempted 51. So, she's been very efficient. Her opponents are really trying to get the fight to the ground because she's better than them on the feet. So Nina's got to keep this fight standing, plain and simple. And Cynthia's got to get this fight to the ground, plain and simple, because Cynthia's not really winning minutes on the feet at this level, and Nina Nunes is not really winning minutes on the ground at this level. Strength of schedule. Calvillo is better. The wins are just a little bit better for Nina Nunes, but neither one of these ladies is beating fighters with winning records, and they're both losing to good fighters, but Calvillo losing to the much better fighters, in my opinion. So I like Calvillo's grappling. I like the strength of schedule. I like the fact that she's a little bit younger. I like Nina Nunes' striking. But I don't know where either of these ladies are. Like I say, pregnancy between the Tatiana Suarez fight and the Mackenzie Dern fight. Then she gets submitted in the first round by Mackenzie Dern. That was like at least a year ago. Or no, I think that was like October of last year. But it's been 9 months since she's had that fight. And that fight was less than 5 minutes. So I think Nina Nunes has spent less than 5 minutes in the UFC cage in the last 4 years. So how do you know where she's at? And then Cynthia Calvillo, loss. 3 straight losses to 3 great fighters. And this is now Nina Nunes stepping up from 115 up to 125. Nunes' first fight at 125. Calvillo is now at 125. She used to be a 115er. So, yeah, and the last win for Calvillo was against Jessica Ai. So, this is I'm gonna pick Nina Nunes to win this fight. She's the dog, and I think that's the best way to attack fights like this. I don't know where either of these ladies are at in their career. I wouldn't be surprised to see whoever loses this fight hang up their gloves because I just don't know where either of them are at. So 1-800-GAMBLER fight. I'm not touching it. I'm leaning Nina Nunes to win by decision, I guess, but not staying. I'm not betting this fight. It's just not a very good idea. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. Got a guy, Boston Nick, in the room saying live betting women's MMA is the key. I think it's better than just picking those lines right off the before the fight starts, because there's just so much variance in women's MMA. Eric Betts Fights was posting a stat on Twitter the other day about how like if you just blind bet the underdog in women's MMA for like the last year or something like that, you'd be like 43% return on investment. It's crazy. So it's definitely hard, but if you do, at least you can see how the fight's playing out, and then maybe you get the line you want. Let me see. Not even the tip, Weezy, just a little stab. Maybe. I mean, if you like Nunes, yeah. But I mean, like, I wouldn't lay juice on women's MMA, man. And Mr. D saying, just beat me with a bag of oranges already. Man, that's hilarious. Oh, dude, we got 190 you guys hanging out here a late night on a Tuesday. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're always doing great stuff on this channel here, and also on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, also on DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel. We got you guys covered. Pub Sports Radio, we got you guys covered with all of the best UFC content that is out there on YouTube right now. So let's get on to this next fight because we spent enough time on that one. Jamie Mullarkey going up against Michael Johnson. Mullarkey a minus 235 favorite. Johnson at plus 200, and the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 200 here. Wow. Okay. So, loving Mullarkey's age here, 27 years old. So, he's 9 years younger than Michael Johnson. He is 2 inches taller, and he has a 1-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Michael Johnson out of Sanford. And Jamie Mullarkey, I believe, is training out of City Kickboxing now. But that is a fairly new move. Australia for Mullarkey, and then it's the United States for Johnson. So Johnson's got twice as many professional fights, about 250 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 6 more years as a pro. So big-time experience advantage as a pro and at the UFC level here for Michael Johnson, while Mullarkey has a nice little youth and size advantage here. 20 more UFC fights and about 240 more minutes in the UFC cage. In terms of finishing, Mullarkey is a fantastic finisher, 92% finish rate, 13 of his 14 wins inside the distance. Michael Johnson has finished 11 of his 20 wins inside the distance, 9 by knockout, 2 by submission. So both of these guys are way more likely to knock out their opponents than they are to submit them. Both of these guys get finished when they lose, too. Mullarkey lost 3 of 5 fights inside the distance. And for Michael Johnson, it is 65% of his 17 fights. So that would be 6, 12, 18. So I think that would be 11 of his 17 fights have been finishes. And at the UFC level, 53% of his 13 losses have come inside the distance, so 7 of 13 losses. While for Mullarkey, it's 1 of 3. In terms of the striking is close. It's hard to give the advantage to Mullarkey here because Michael Johnson is such a clean, crisp striker. And over that 25-fight sample size, he's outlanding his opponents by about 0.4 significant strikes per minute. He outvolumes them by almost 2 significant strike attempts per minute. He's had 10 knockdowns in 25 fights. So he's got very good power numbers, 0.52 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And he's been knocked down, it looks like, only twice in 1,082 significant strikes absorbed, 58% striking defense, only absorbing 0.1 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So he's been less chinny than Mullarkey thus far, although Mullarkey getting a little more knockdowns per 15 minutes here at 0.68 compared to 0.52 for Johnson. And he's also been more accurate while he doesn't throw as much volume as his opponents. So I think I'm actually going to give Michael Johnson the striking advantage here. In terms of wrestling, Michael Johnson's base was wrestling coming into the UFC, but he does not wrestle. He won't be shooting takedowns here. Only 21 takedown attempts in 25 fights. And you see that he does have that wrestling background. He's getting his takedowns at almost a 50% clip. He just doesn't have great fight IQ, so he doesn't mix it in very well, and he loses a lot of minutes on the ground. But it's important to know here that with 21 takedown attempts for Johnson, he's had 94 attempted against him. So his opponents are attempting over 4 takedowns for every 1 that Johnson attempts, yet they're not even out-controlling him at a 2-to-1 ratio. So Johnson is very efficient in his grappling. He doesn't get taken down much. He doesn't get held down much. And over 70% of his fights are taking place at striking range where he's very comfortable. Now, Mullarkey has been a lot more active of a wrestler as he's attempted 10 more takedowns than Michael Johnson has at the UFC level. And Mullarkey only has 5 UFC fights while Michael Johnson has 25. So while Johnson has been very efficient on the ground, been very good at getting the takedowns when he does shoot for them, we have to realize that Mullarkey is going to be the guy that's more likely to actually shoot takedowns and more likely to actually win minutes via the wrestling because he's active there. Not very good takedown defense, though, at only 57%. And he has been taken down once per 15 minutes, and he has been controlled for 9.5% of his career. But, he's out-controlling his opponents at a 3-to-1 ratio, and he's out-takedowning his opponents at a little better than a 3-to-1 ratio. So good efficiency numbers right in the meaty part of the curve, but he's been active in trying to win minutes in the grappling, which is something that Michael Johnson hasn't been. In addition to that, the strength of schedule is going to it definitely is in favor of Michael Johnson here. The ratio is better for Mullarkey, but Johnson's fighting 3 times more experienced competition here. And the wins, not quite as good of a ratio here for Johnson. But, look at that. 16 total fights to only 4.5 for Mullarkey. So Johnson's beating the much more experienced competition. This guy's got wins over Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier, if I'm not mistaken. But then he's got losses to guys like Stevie Ray. It just doesn't make any sense. But Michael Johnson has fought and beaten and lost to the much better brand of competition compared to Jamie Mullarkey. So I kind of like Johnson here in the striking. I think Mullarkey will be the more likely guy to win minutes in the grappling. But I think it's going to be very close on the feet. Mullarkey's by far the better finisher. He's going to be probably the guy that's landing the bigger shots, in my opinion. He is the guy who really does try to finish. And we're talking 13 of 14 wins inside the distance for Mullarkey, while it's only 11 of 20 wins inside the distance for Johnson. And even at the UFC level, it's 5 of 12, so it's less than 50%, while Mullarkey has finished both of his UFC wins. So, but the problem is that this line doesn't make any sense to me. How do you bet minus 235 on Jamie Mullarkey here, especially when Johnson seems to give some of his best performances when nobody expects him to? I might even be looking at a Michael Johnson bet here, because I think when you break this fight down skill for skill, you realize that, Mullarkey isn't much better than Michael Johnson on paper anywhere. He really isn't. But what he is 9 years younger, a lot hungrier, at a completely different part of his career, and he's just a dog. I mean, there's no quit in this guy. He is a born fighter, and he thrives in violent fights. And I think that this is going to be an absolute war. I can't wait to see who wins it. I think the betting side is Michael Johnson, but I got to pick Jamie Mullarkey to gut this one out and get the win here. But I am not laying minus 235 on Jamie Mullarkey. No chance in hell. I don't think he's that much better than Michael Johnson. I think he's just a lot younger. And when you're 9 years younger, that's statistically significant in terms of win rates. They probably are winning about 2/3 of the fight when you have when you're 9 years younger than your opponent. So, and this, like I say, the skill sets are similar. But yeah, I'm going to pick Mullarkey to win a very close, very greasy fight here. Next fight, Jared Vanderaa against Chase Sherman. Minus 175 for Jared Vanderaa. Chase Sherman plus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 180. And out of total respect to my guy, Tajik Bey, there will be no Chase Sherman hazing today. Let's get these stats up if I can find there we go. So let's see here. Yes, sir. All right, cool. We've got Chase Sherman, 2 years older. They're both 6'4". Vanderaa is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. So a slight little tail of the tape advantage there for Vanderaa. It's Chase Sherman with 5 more fights, but it's Jared Vanderaa with about 40 more minutes in the pro cage. And Chase Sherman been a pro for about a year and a half longer. Chase has 6 more UFC level fights and about 60 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys are really good finishers. Jared Vanderaa finishing at an 83% rate, 10 of 12 wins. And Chase Sherman is finishing 14 of 15 wins inside the distance. Now, Jared is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he can actually get submissions on the ground, while Chase Sherman is entirely dependent on the knockout. Both of these guys do get finished. Chase has been finished in 5 of 9 UFC losses. Jared Vanderaa has been finished in 3 of 4 UFC losses. And Chase has finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins, while Jared has finished 1 of his 2 UFC wins. Excuse me. And Chase is getting finished 6 of 10 losses, and it's 5 of 8 for Jared Vanderaa. So they're both getting finished in more than half of their losses. In terms of who the better striker is here, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. Chase Sherman is a pure striker. There is no wrestling. There is no ground game. He is a complete fish out of water off of his back. Jared Vanderaa, not much better than that, but the guys that he's went to the ground with have, been a lot better than Chase Sherman. Guys like Sergey Spivak, guys like Romanov. Jared Vanderaa has been on, and Olenek, a guy with 50 career submissions, So Jared Vanderaa has been on the ground with some really, really good grapplers, while Chase Sherman got drowned by Fat Collier, and I mean quickly. So in terms of who the better striker is, both of these guys throw more volume than their opponents, right? Both of these guys are getting outlanded. Chase Sherman showing a little more power, but also showing a little more chinniness. Vanderaa, no knockdowns, but he's never been knocked down. 44% striking defense, though, for Jared Vanderaa is a very bad sign, because Chase Sherman hits hard. Now, grappling. This is the interesting part, right? Because prior to Chase Sherman's last 2 fights, he was something like, here, let's even take a look here. I've got the numbers, so let's look at them. Now, advanced stats, and let's go down to this fight, because we can take a look at these numbers and get a better idea of what's going on here. So there's Vanderaa. We see that Vanderaa got wins over 0-3 Harry Hunsucker and 1-3 Tafa, but you see he's losing to guys like Spivak, Romanov, Arlovsky, and Olenek. And Chase Sherman, man, the 3 wins that he's had are over guys that are 2-11 in the UFC. 1-3 Rashad Coulter, 0-3 Damian Grabowski, and 1-5 Ike Villanueva. But he's lost to Romanov, Fat Collier, Parker Porter, Arlovsky, Augusto Sakai, Justin Willis, Shamil Abdur-Rahimov, Walt Harris, and Justin Ledet. So a lot of losses there. But let's see here. I'll go back to these stats. Sherman. Oh, yes. We were going to look at the takedown defense for Sherman. So Chase. Let's see. In these fights here, that is a sum of 9. So he'd been taken down 2 of 9. I'm sorry. He had been taken down 3 times in 17 attempts. And then the last 4 fights, or last 2 fights, he was taking 3 for 3 and 1 for 1. So that took his takedown defense from, something above 80%, to where it is now, which is in the 66%. So definitely not great anymore. Vanderaa has only attempted 1 takedown, though. So for those of you who are saying that you're counting on Jared Vanderaa to take this dude down and get a submission, just know that he's had 6 UFC fights and he's attempted 1 takedown. It was against Harry Hunsucker. So is Jared Vanderaa going to be smart enough to attempt takedowns? The guy who I call the walking concussion. Are we going to count on the walking concussion to show intelligence in the cage? Boy, is that a stretch. It is an awful stretch, and we're laying juice on this guy. We're laying juice here on Jared Vanderaa at -175 because, in my opinion, if this fight stays standing for 15 minutes, it's anybody's fight. I mean, I would maybe even lean Chase Sherman just because he throws the straighter strikes and he's shown some power at this level. Vanderaa, both of these guys went 3 rounds with Andrei Arlovsky and had close fights with him, and they both lost those fights. But according to the numbers, Vanderaa performed a little bit better than Sherman did, but I saw Sherman completely gas out in that 3rd round. But I think that these guys are even on the feet, but we've just got to know whether Jared Vanderaa is going to have the intelligence to mix in the wrestling here. Because if he does, we saw that Chase Sherman has been taken down in the last 4 attempts. He's been taken down all 4 times, and it's led to 2 finishes on the ground. So, Jared's going to have to wrestle here. Otherwise, he's not going to look -175, in my opinion. I mean, he might, if he doesn't get any takedowns, cruise to a victory, win 2 out of 3 rounds, easily win the 3rd because Chase gassed out. But, I'm picking Vanderaa here, but I am not laying -175 on him. I think either one of these guys is live for a finisher, especially Vanderaa if he decides to take this fight to the ground, use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, get a submission, or use his ground and pound to get a knockout. But if it stays on the feet, I think it's a coin flip, and I think the better line to bet is Chase Sherman. But just because Vanderaa does have the option to go to the grappling, and while I think the fight will be close to 50-50 on the feet, I have to lean Jared Vanderaa here to get this one done. And I think I'll pick him to win it by decision just because neither one of these guys is very good. So, but the next fight, we're going to skip over what would have been maybe the fight of the year, Jamie Pickett versus Dennis Tialulin. But what we have to learn about in life, you guys, is that, things don't always go our way, right? Anybody is, what was it that Ted Knight said in Caddyshack, right? It's easy to grin when your ships come in and you've got the stock market beat. But a man worthwhile is a man who can smile when his shorts are too tight in the seat, right? And what he's saying here is that if we can get through the adversity, that's what makes us a better man. And we lost Jamie Pickett versus Dennis Tialulin. And most of us would just say at that point, right, okay, I'm retired from betting on MMA. This is too big of a blow. I can't come back from this. I'm never watching the sport again. Not us. Not here on Uncle Weezy's channel. We're going to persevere. We're going to get through the bad news and get to the meat and potatoes of this card. An even better fight. Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Said Nurmagomedov. So while we don't have the absolute firestorm of Pickett Tialulin, we can take solace in the fact that these last 3 fights are going to be bangers, you guys. So let's break it down. Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Said Nurmagomedov. Said, 7 years younger, 1 inch taller, 2 inches of reach. Love the tail of the tape for Said. But Douglas Silva de Andrade, much more experience, 16 more professional fights, about 34 more minutes in the pro cage, a little over 2 more years as a pro. And he's been a little more active, fighting a little over twice a year, while Said in a 13-year career only has 17 fights. So very inactive for Said Nurmagomedov. And then we see that Douglas has much more experience at the UFC level, having 5 more UFC fights in about 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to finishing, Said Nurmagomedov is an equal opportunity finisher, but not a spectacular finisher, finishing 8 of his 15 wins inside the distance, 4 by submission, 4 by knockout. But Douglas Silva de Andrade, in 28 wins, has a 78% finish rate. So that would be, I believe, 22 out of 28 wins coming inside the distance. 20 by knockout and 2 by submission. So incredible finisher here, Douglas Silva de Andrade. And he's finished 3 of his 6 UFC wins as well, while Said Nurmagomedov has finished 3 of his 4 UFC wins. Said has never been finished, and Douglas has been finished in 2 of his 4 losses. Now, Said Nurmagomedov is an excellent striker, and he's going to be taller. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's going to be younger. But it's Douglas Silva de Andrade who just throws with bad intentions on every strike. So even though he absorbs more significant strikes than he lands by about 0.37, and his opponents throw just a little more volume than him, and Douglas Silva only lands at just under 40% accuracy, he does have 6 knockdowns in 10 fights. So for a bantamweight, those are serious knockdown numbers. 1.33% of the significant strikes that he lands results in a knockdown, and he's averaging 0.77 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And he's only been knocked down once in 10 fights, and I believe that was by Petrosyan. And it was so it's 0.13 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. So while Douglas isn't a big minute winner on the feet, he's absolutely a moment winner, and he throws 100% power into all of his strikes. So if you sit there and you exchange with this dude, you're taking very big chances with your ability to win the fight and with your brain cell count. Now, Said putting up video game numbers in his 5 UFC fights, landing 4.75 significant strikes per minute, only absorbing 2.35. So that's a 2-to-1 significant strike landed to significant strike absorbed ratio. He's throwing 10.15 per minute, while his opponents are only throwing 6. So he's almost doubling the volume that he's throwing. He's landing a knockdown on 0.62% of the significant strikes that he lands, and he's averaging 0.44 knockdowns per 15 minutes and showing 61% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down. So I think Said will be throwing more volume on the feet. He moves very well laterally, a lot of spinning kicks. And because of the spinning kicks, they will catch you by surprise and knock you down. While Douglas Silva de Andrade is more likely to kind of just march forward, eat 1 to give 1, maybe eat 2 to give 1, but throw those big overhands, those big body kicks, everything with fight-ending intentions. While Said is a lot flashier and a lot better with his movement and footwork, But he is also, takes chances with that spinning shit. And if he gets countered by Douglas, that could be a big problem for him. When it comes to the grappling, we see both of these guys are spending about 84% of their fights at striking range. Douglas, only 5 takedowns in 10 fights, only 11 takedown attempts in 5 fights, and less than 5% control time for and over 100 minutes in the cage. So we don't really count on Douglas Silva to get takedowns or win any minutes on the ground. And he's got 69% takedown defense. He's getting taken down about 1.5 times for 15 minutes, and he's being controlled on the ground about 1/8 of his UFC career. Saeed, a lot more active in going for wrestling, but he's only gotten 1 takedown attempt, and he's being controlled about as much as he controls his opponents. He's got 1 takedown. His opponents have 2. So Saeed has not been great at the UFC level. However, I mean, when you go back and you watch the regional scene footage for this guy in Russia, he's getting takedowns. He's absolutely the better wrestler and grappler here, and will be the much more likely guy to win minutes on the ground. And I think he'll be the much more likely guy to win minutes on the feet. And I think he's almost as explosive in terms of the way he puts together his striking and sets up his wrestling, and then he uses his wrestling to set up his submission attempts. Saeed is very, very dangerous, and he appears to only be getting better at this point. So he is a big favorite in this fight right now, sitting at -260. And, that's a little wide for me. We see that the strength of schedule is almost identical here. Little bit better ratio for Saeed, little more total fights for Douglas Silva de Andrade. And in the wins, it's the same thing. A little bit better ratio for Saeed, a little bit more experienced wins for Douglas. And they're both losing to guys that have at least a 2-to-1 ratio of wins to losses. So very, very similar on strength of schedule, but I like Saeed's size. I like his youth and the experience numbers. Obviously, lean Silva de Andrade. And, I think that the grappling, the ability to be able to win minutes in the grappling will lean Nurmagomedov here. And I think he'll be likely to go to the wrestling. 14 takedown attempts in 5 fights, and Douglas only stopping them at below a 70% clip, being controlled about 1/8 of the time. He's, fairly easy to take down, but not really easy to hold down. But I got to believe that Nurmagomedov does get the job done here, and I'm going to pick him to win this fight by decision because Douglas Silva de Andrade is very difficult to finish. He has been finished twice at the UFC level, but I believe the guys that finished him I know one of them was Petrosyan, and I believe the other one was Rob Font. Let me just look. Because, like I say, it's absolutely top-level competition. Losses to Font by submission in the second round, and a loss to Petrosyan in the second round by knockout. The other guys were Laurent Murphy beat him, and Tukugov beat him. And, a lot of these losses are at 145, too. The Laurent Murphy and the Tukugov loss. So at 135, if you take the 1 win and the 2 losses off, at 135, he is 5-2. So very good record for Douglas Silva de Andrade. And he's live at +220. We saw him in the Morozov fight. I mean, he not only got knocked down and then got ground and pounded, but he got a nasty cut opened up that was spurting and looked like it might stop the fight. And he came out in the second round and absolutely put it on Morozov. So you can't count out Douglas Silva de Andrade. He's extremely difficult to finish. So I think I'll pick Saeed Nurmagomedov to win this fight by decision. But, I think if you want to take a shot on Douglas Silva de Andrade to win this fight, it's not the worst look in the world. But Saeed is special, you guys. Co-main event time. We got Armen Petrosyan at +172 fighting Caio Borralho, the natural, at -202. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -180. So this is a really good one, you guys. I can't wait to break down this fight. Caio Borralho, definitely one of my favorite fighters right now. That's young, Jailton Almeida, Caio Borralho, like Jonathan Pierce, some young guys that I think do amazing work and have got the arrow pointing straight up. So I think this is going to be an amazing fight. Wait, is that my guy Victor in here? Jeez, man. Look at this guy. Hey, Unc, I forgot to mention earlier, I put 1 unit on Stolyarenko, finish only, to win 0.75 units, and threw $5 at 40-1 odds for her to win in 60 seconds or less. Can't believe 70% of my profits came from Julia Stolyarenko. That's how you do it. Victor De Jesus, all about Vic on Twitter. Follow that man. He is a supporter of the show. He is a super sharp MMA bettor. Thank you so much for the donation, Vic. Appreciate you, man. I got to get up to Grand Rapids soon to see you, my man. Thank you. Thank you so much for the donation. And thank you for stacking cash tickets like flapjacks on Julia Stolyarenko, dude. And I told you guys, don't lay the juice on Jessica Rose Clark. She's got bad fight IQ. She can get armbarred. So very good stuff there. But the co-main event now, you guys, Borralho Petrosyan. Borralho still only 29 years old. Borralho, it says 5'10". I think Caio is probably about 6'2". So he'll be a little bit smaller here than Armen, but they might even be the same height. 4-inch reach advantage though for Borralho. Borralho is a natural orthodox fighter, but he taught himself how to fight southpaw, emulating Conor McGregor. So he's taught himself how to fight southpaw, so he uses his left hand as his power hand, but because he's a natural righty, he's got power in both hands. He's a very dangerous striker who strikes with that karate stance. And by the way, you guys, ring a ding ding. My guy, the DFS Whisperers, here and saying, "Oi, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Appreciate the content. Had to come show support real quick. I really appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you hanging out on a Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy and the rest of the cats here in the room. We got 118 live viewers. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And I thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy here. But let's get into this fight because this is a beauty. It's Caio who's more experienced here. 5 more professional fights, 35 more minutes in the cage, about 4 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. In addition to that, he has 1 more fight at the UFC level and about 10 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Borralho finishing at a 63% rate as a pro, 7 of 11 wins inside the distance, 4 by knockout, 3 by submission. Armen has finished 6 of his 7 wins inside the distance. The only win that he didn't finish was against Gregory Rodriguez. And Armen has been finished in his only loss, while Caio has never been finished. So when it comes to the striking, it's Armen Petrosyan who's the trained kickboxer here. And if you look at the numbers, they're better for Petrosyan. 7.56 landed, only 3.39 absorbed, 13.68 thrown, only 7.4 thrown back his way. Great volume advantage, great significant strike advantage, nice accuracy. He has a knockdown in 2 fights, 0.77 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and a 54% striking defense, which is okay. Caio is doubling the amount of significant strikes that he lands, just like Armen Petrosyan is, but he's throwing just a little bit more volume than his opponents are. 64% striking accuracy is excellent. He has 1 knockdown and 112 significant strikes, and he's showing 66% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down. So I think that this is going to be close on the feet. Petrosyan's got heavy body kicks, but Borralho is in and out and has that karate style. And because he is a natural righty but fights out of the southpaw stance, he's absolutely comfortable in both stance. He gives his opponents a lot of different looks. And I don't think that the people who think that Petrosyan is going to have a striking advantage, when they watch this fight live, I don't think that they're going to be happy by what they see, because I think Caio is going to be very competitive in the striking exchanges here on the feet. On the ground, this won't be competitive, unfortunately. Petrosyan has shown a really good get-up game thus far, but he's showing 37.5% takedown defense, and he's being controlled for more than 26% of his UFC career. Borralho is getting 80% of his takedowns. He's controlling his opponents 41% of the time, giving up 21% control time, but did an amazing job on the ground with an undefeated Russian in Omar Gadziev, who was a Sambo world champion. So Borralho is very good on the ground. He's got excellent fight IQ. He's dangerous everywhere it goes. He's got power in both hands, and he's been training his Brazilian jiu-jitsu with Damian Maia for almost 10 years. Caio Borralho is one of my favorite prospects in the entire UFC right now. I love the fact that he's got good conditioning. I love the fact that he has power on the feet. I love the fact that he prides himself on his fight IQ. There's really no weak spots in this guy's game. And Petrosyan does have weak spots. But Petrosyan is still young, and he's still improving, and he's very dangerous on the feet. And you can't say enough about how great that win was against Gregory Rodriguez. What a debut performance. Looked great on the feet. Got taken down a few times, but was able to get back up. And even with Rodriguez on his back shortly, he looked like he wasn't nervous, and he looked like he was ready to get this thing back up to the feet. He did exactly that and won the minutes on the feet in order to get that decision win. It was a close fight, but Petrosyan did face some grappling adversity and wound up getting through it, which is what you see in all of his fights. Petrosyan gets taken down basically in every fight that he gets that he's in, but he survives down there. He works back to his feet. He doesn't make mistakes, and then he gets it back to where he's most comfortable, and then he finishes fights up there. So I'm definitely leaning kind of Caio Borralho here. I think it's going to be close on the feet for sure, but I think Caio's ability to be able to mix in the wrestling will make Armen just tentative enough on the feet that Caio might be able to win some minutes there. And also, I think that he's going to be able to get takedowns when he wants them. And when he gets takedowns, unlike the Russians who tend to be position over submission, I think we're going to see Caio also be really good with his position. But I think we're going to see him work that Brazilian jiu-jitsu, get to Armen Petrosyan's back, and probably finish this one via submission. I'm picking Caio Borralho, the natural, to finish this one via second round submission over Armen Petrosyan, which brings us to the main event. Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fisiev. The battle of the Rafis. This fight is supposed to have taken place a couple times already. Let me just see here how many times we've tried to make this fight happen, because we really do need to make this one happy. It is a great fight. I've been waiting to see Fisiev fight for 5 rounds for a long time. So yeah, this fight was supposed to take place on February 19th and then again on March 5th. And on March 5th, it was Fisiev who had to pull out, and then Renato Moicano took his place. And man, did he put a performance on Moicano there. So let's get to the numbers, though. And by the way, on the MMA Engine channel on Monday, Brady and I broke down this main event in great detail. I would say that the link is in the description, but I haven't added that link to the description yet. But it'll be available here in the description of this video after I put the timestamps in. This is an absolute banger. But in the size, we like Fisiev. 8 years younger. Love that. Same height, 1 inch reach advantage, and Fisiev fights out of both stances, while Dos Anjos is a southpaw. So it's Tiger Muay Thai once again for Rafael, and it's the RDA Academy in Novo União for Rafael Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos, a huge experience advantage, 32 professional fights, 440 more minutes in the cage, about 11 more years as a pro mixed martial artist, about 25 more professional fights, and this guy's got over 450 minutes in the UFC cage. So that would be over 7 hours of his life that he's been in this cage, while Fisiev, 62 minutes. So big experience advantage here for Dos Anjos, while we have a nice tail of the tape advantage here for Fisiev, being 8 years younger and having a 1 inch reach advantage and being a switch stance fighter. Fisiev 73% finish rate, much better than a 48% finish rate for Dos Anjos. But both of these guys are finishing at a 40% rate at the UFC level, as it's 8 wins inside the distance for Dos Anjos, 4 by submission, 4 by knockout in the UFC, and it's 2 wins inside the distance for Fisiev, both of them by knockout. And Fisiev has been knocked out in his only pro loss. It was by Magomed Mustafayev. And Rafael Dos Anjos has been knocked out 23% of his 13 losses. So that is 3 overall losses, all at the UFC level, all by knockout. So when it comes to the striking, clearly it's Rafael Fisiev who has the advantage in the striking. Give me just a minute here, you guys. Okay, so we see that Fisiev's numbers aren't great. 5.35 landed, 5.57 absorbed. So he's absorbing more than he lands. His opponents throw 1.12 more significant strike attempts per minute than he does. He doesn't have great power numbers, and he's been knocked down just as often as he's getting knocked down. So when you look at the numbers overall for Fisiev, they don't look great. They actually look better for Dos Anjos, as he lands 3.62 and only absorbs 3.24. He throws less volume than his opponents. 47% striking accuracy is solid. The knockdowns per total significant strikes landed are comparable. The knockdowns per 15 are comparable. What Dos Anjos does have that's really good is a 61% striking defense, way better than the 50% of Fisiev. And he's only been knocked down once in 31 UFC fights. So Rafael Dos Anjos has been very defensively responsible with the striking. Very important to note against somebody that is a pure striker in Fisiev. So, but obviously Fisiev has the striking advantage here. When you watch this guy strike, he's something special. It's just that he throws 100% power into every strike that he throws. And he counters everything that you throw, and he's always switching stances, and he literally has power from everywhere, whether it's the fists, the elbows, the knees, or the ankles. Whatever he hits you with, it's going to hurt. So Fisiev will be winning the minutes on the feet here. I have no doubt about that. He is a special striker, and he hasn't been, he's not on a 5-fight winning streak because of his grappling. I can tell you that. It's because this guy is absolutely fierce on the feet. And if Rafael Dos Anjos fights smart, he's not going to let this fight stay on the feet for long. But will Rafael Fisiev, will he allow Dos Anjos to do that? Because we see here over 6 UFC fights, Rafael Fisiev has faced 22 takedowns attempts, and he's only been taken down once. So that's 95.45% takedown defense. Fantastic stuff. And Rafael, for a pure striker, is getting 7.43% control time and allowing 2.76. So that is about 90% of his fights are taking place at striking range. So that's exactly what you want to see from a great striker, is somebody with over 90% takedown defense, somebody who's spending 90% of their fights or more at striking range, so that they're spending 9 out of 10 seconds in a space where they're comfortable and their opponents aren't going to be comfortable. Fisiev has been a master of doing that thus far. That's what the key to his success is keeping the fight standing and winning minutes on the feet, and then eventually trying to find that moment where he knocks his opponent out. Now, Rafi here is getting 27% control time for and 22% control time against. So that means that 50% of Rafael Dos Anjos' 453 minutes in the UFC cage is spent in control time positions for or against. So that's the crux of this fight. Which one of these guys is going to be able to get the fight that they want? Fisiev wants this fight taking place at striking range 90% of the time. Dos Anjos wants this fight taking place at striking range about 40 to 50% of the time. Whichever guy gets their way in that battle is going to be the one that wins this fight. Because if this fight stays standing and Rafael can't get Rafael's back to the, or if Dos Anjos can't get Fisiev's back to the cage or back to the mat, he's probably just biding time until he gets knocked out because Fisiev hits that hard. But if Fisiev starts to see a game plan, which he hasn't really seen yet outside of the Alex White fight, somebody that's attempted more than 4 takedowns in 15 minutes, we need to see how Rafi thrives in that kind of a fight, because that's the kind of fight that Rafael Dos Anjos is going to bring. And I just want to be real clear about something here, is that if we look at the advanced stats, right, and we go up here to the main event, and we see Rafi there. Now, we've got all these fights here. You see this? These are the weight classes that the Dos Anjos has fought at. So we got all this at 155 here, but then we've got some fights here at 170. Chiesa, Leon Edwards, Kevin Lee, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, right? And he lost 4 of those 5 fights. Or I'm sorry, there's more. So these are all the 170-pound fights. Now, if we were to take out the 170-pound data, what we would find is that he had 18,000 seconds in the cage. He controlled his opponents about 5,900 seconds, and he was controlled about 2,000. So when you take out the 170-pound fights, instead of Dos Anjos having 27% control time for and 21% control time against, Dos Anjos has 33% control time for and 11% control time against. So at 155 pounds, Rafael Dos Anjos is spending about 44% of his fights in control time positions for or against, and he's winning 75% of those control time positions. So that's what Dos Anjos needs to do. He needs to fight that same game plan that he's been fighting at 155 pounds, which is to use his grappling, mix that in, because he can win minutes on the feet. He is a good striker, but Fisiev is going to be better. He's going to be more powerful, and he's going to be much faster, and he's going to give him a lot of different looks with the stance switching and with the kicks and the punches. So because Fisiev has been so good at keeping the fights at his range and having great footwork, keeping the fight in the center, I really do believe that he's probably going to be the guy to win this fight. But the line is a little bit wide. And we see here, Dos Anjos, better ratio, more total fights in the overall. Better ratio, more total fights in the wins. Better ratio, more total fights in the losses. Rafael Dos Anjos is by far the better grappler. Rafael Dos Anjos has by far the better strength of schedule. Rafael Dos Anjos is by far the way more experienced mixed martial artist here. And he's a good striker, and he's got excellent conditioning. And Rafael Fisiev is going to be the better striker here, and he's 9 years younger. So you love that as well. And he's been able to fight his fight at the UFC level. 90% at striking range, in the center of the cage, 95% takedown defense. He's done all these things very well, but we got to remember, we haven't seen somebody push a grappling heavy game plan on him for 3 rounds since Alex White, and Fisiev was exhausted in the 3rd round of that fight. What do the championship rounds look like for Fisiev here if he's getting grappled for the first 3? Because Rafi can push that pace for 5 rounds. Go watch the Covington fight. Go watch the Usman fight. Those guys couldn't drown Rafael Dos Anjos on the ground. He can push this pace. Go watch the Felder fight. And then if we look at here, Dos Anjos, these last 2 fights, right, against Moicano and Felder, these are the last 2 fights. One was at 160, one was at 155. They were both short notice fights for his opponents. But look at this. 5 takedowns, 6 takedowns, 15 attempts, and 22 attempts. So he was 11 of 37 on his takedown attempts against Moicano and against Felder. If he brings that kind of pace against Rafael Fisiev in a 5-round fight, and Fisiev doesn't get him out of there earlier, dude, are you going to be happy with a minus 250 ticket on Rafael Fisiev? I can promise you that you won't. This line is too wide. If I was to pick a money line side to bet on here, it would be Rafael Dos Anjos. If you ask me who's winning the fight, I got to pick Fisiev, though. So this is a very difficult fight to handicap, and it makes it very interesting to bet on. One of the things I do want to bring to your attention, in my 5-round fight database, there have been 72% of the 5-round fights that take place at 155 pounds have finished inside the distance. So to get fight doesn't go to decision for the main event right now at plus money, which is sitting at plus 110, is a good look, because we see here fight doesn't go plus 110, plus 105 on Betway, plus 115 on 5 Dimes, plus 110 on DraftKings. That is good, because if we see here, these fights are finishing 50% of the time when they're 3 rounds, but they're finishing 72% of the time for 5 rounds. 72% compared to the 47% implied probability of a plus 110 line leads me to believe that I will be betting the fight doesn't go to decision here. And look, we don't know what Fisiev looks like off his back with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt on top of him. Don't forget, this guy, Dos Anjos, is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion at the black belt level back in 2003. That's 20 years ago. This is an excellent grappler. So if this fight goes to the ground, Dos Anjos is going to be incredibly dangerous down there. If this fight stays standing, Fisiev is going to be incredibly dangerous there with his power and his speed. And even if Fisiev has a great first 3 rounds and he doesn't get Dos Anjos out of there, he might gas in the 4th and 5th and might get finished himself. So I like fight doesn't go to decision here. I like plus almost 190 on the Rafael Dos Anjos money line, even though my pick is going to be Rafael Fisiev by decision for this fight. It's a great main event. I can't wait to watch it. And I think the card is pretty good from top to bottom. If we can get over the horrific loss of the Jamie Pickett-Dennis Tialulin fight, I think we can persevere, you guys. I think we can have a lot of fun watching these fights. And I think if we make the right reads, we could stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 58. What's up, everybody? My guy Take No Prisoners is in the room, and he does the old ring-a-ding-ding with the $19.99 donation. Big ups to you, brother. He says, hey, Weezy, what do you think? Jordan versus Burgos and Moreno versus Kai Kara. So I'm worried about how much damage Shane Burgos has taken over the last few fights. The way he got knocked out by Edson Barbosa was absolutely brutal. There have been a couple other ones recently that I didn't like at all. And I'm worried because Jordan is still very young and he's a very good striker. I think that line is a little bit wide, but I still would have to lean Burgos because he's so good on the feet. But Moreno versus Kai Kara France, I think that I like Moreno there. I think he's a little more well-rounded. I think he'll be a little bit faster. And I think he's just a little bit more willing to go to war. But goddamn, those are both great fights, and I can't wait to see both of them. Thank you so much for the donation. Take No Prisoners. Much love to you. Thank all you guys for hanging out. We've got 115 of you in here hanging out on a Tuesday night. So this would normally be the time when I would be giving you my greasy 4-leg parlay, but there are no props out right now on FanDuel or basically anywhere. So I can't give you a greasy 4-legger. So what I am going to do is I am going to wait for the props to come out and drop a little 5-minute video on YouTube either Wednesday or Thursday, which will give you the greasy 4-legger for this week. Because, like I say, they're slacking on the lines. I don't have anything out available on FanDuel yet, and a lot of these fights don't even have props out on them yet. So we're going to wait for the greasy 4-legger, but it's going to look something like fight doesn't go to decision for the main event. The Caio Borralho money line. Jesus Christ. I don't even know what else. So we're going to have to wait on the greasy 4-legger, you guys. I apologize, but that's just how it has to be, man. We've got to get this right. We've got to finish up the research that we do. And I think we're going to move on to what the last order of business is. And I think you guys know what that is. It is going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Now, we've got some pretty good options this week. There's some good favorites on this card. Fisiev is a good favorite. Borralho is a good favorite. Nurmagomedov is a good favorite. Hell, a lot of people think Jared Vanderaa is going to shave Chase Sherman's ass. A lot of people think Jamie Mullarkey is going to shave Michael Johnson's ass. Calvillo, Nunes, no chance. Zahabi against Ricky Turcios, it's a close fight. Shevchenko, Casey, no. Brundage, Gore, very close. Nzechukwu, Roberson, very close. Lawrence, Kakhromonov, very close. So I got to get somebody that I think is going to get it done, violently. And I also have to learn, I got burned by Fight IQ when Sean Strickland fought Pereira. And that's frustrating because Sean was just one fight away from a title shot. And I heard him say in there he wanted to stand and bang with these guys. Even after he lost, he said he wanted to stand and bang. And I don't know, man. I'd want to win a championship. When you're one fight away and you got a guy with a gaping hole in his game, no wrestling, no ground game, and you stand in front of him, it goes to show you, I don't think Sean Strickland wants to be a champion. I think he wants to fight. I think he's a great fighter, and I think he's going to put on a lot of entertaining fights here for the UFC, but I don't even think he takes himself seriously. I think he's just out there to fucking punch dudes in the face, and that's why he does it. I don't think he cares if he ever wins a championship, nor will he, because he doesn't know how to fight to his opponent's weaknesses. So I can't do that anymore. I can't pick guys that I think are just, I have to say, oh, if they make good decisions and this is how the fight's going to look. Well, what are the chances that they make those good decisions? So this time I had to go with somebody that I not only thought was better everywhere, but with somebody who makes really good decisions, you guys. And if you want good decisions, you get them from nerds. Sometimes they're fighting nerds. And the fighting nerds, absolute number one prospect down there in Brazil is one Caio Borralho. And there is a reason that this line has moved from minus 130 to minus 210 in a matter of about 2-3 days. And that's because this kid is special. He's got no weaknesses in his game. He fights smart. He's in great condition, power in both hands, great wrestling, trains his Brazilian jiu-jitsu with Damian Maia. This guy recently had a grappling match with Jailton Almeida that went to overtime, and he lost via escape time in overtime. This guy is special. Just like I thought Jalen Turner was special last week, and I should have picked him, and just like I knew that Thiago Moises was going to be the easiest win on the card over Christos Giagos, and yet for some reason I chose a dude with fucked up hair and TJ Brown and horseshit horseshit hair IQ, horseshit fight IQ, horseshit wrestling IQ, just bad IQ all around. Well, I have to hold myself to a higher standard, you guys. I've got to have good IQ. I've got over 100 of you guys in here watching, asking me to give you something that's going to hit this week. Well, the safest pick, the most dominant performance in your Uncle Weezy's humble opinion is going to be Caio Borralho to shave the ass of Armen Petrosyan on Saturday in the UFC Vegas 58 co-main event. We did it, you guys. I'd like to thank all of you guys for hanging out in here with your Uncle Weezy, Papa Chuck, Headley One. We got Nathan up in here. We got Justin Villegas. We got a bunch of good ones in here, but this is going to be a really good card. XBL by Twitch in here, Joint Smoker. Yeah, man, this is a great card. Can't wait to talk to you guys about this tomorrow night as well. I'm going to be going live for a Balls Deep breakdown on the Tresean Gore versus Cody Brundage fight on the MMA Engine. And because it's a good fight, and because on the MMA Engine we're trying to give you the best content that we possibly can, how about bringing on Cody Brundage as a guest to talk about the Cody Brundage versus Tresean Gore fight? Balls Deep breakdown, MMA Engine, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, I believe. We're going to be talking, me, Lou Betcha, going to be talking to Cody Brundage about his upcoming fight on Saturday versus Tresean Gore. Can't wait to break down that with you guys. Also on Thursday at 7 o'clock Central Time, we will be doing Probability on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. And at some point this week, I believe it'll be Wednesday night, 10:30 Central Time, we'll be doing Ask Weezy right here on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. So you guys can ask me about the stats, the prop templates, the betting lines, and how to make some money, how to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 58. You can catch me in all those places. Thank all of you guys for hanging out here on a Tuesday night for Just a Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. Let's make a bunch of money on this upcoming UFC Vegas 58 card. God bless each and every one of you guys. I'll see you tomorrow for a Balls Deep breakdown with Cody Brundage and Lou Betya. It's going to be awesome. And I'll see you on Thursday for Probability. And I'll see you tomorrow or Thursday right here on my channel for Ask Weezy. We got Yita saying, Weezy, what's good? Content is dope. Keep swinging. Much appreciated. Prince of Mischief saying Caio inside the distance. I love it. Thank you, Uncle Weezy. Mushroom saying Probability is fucking awesome. And I agree with him, man. Nobody's giving people a data-driven look at the over-under and time prop lines like your Brady and your Weezy are giving you guys on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. So thank you guys for hanging out. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 58. Let's get it, you guys.